This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million.
Welcome to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. So are you where you want to be financially? A well-thought-out plan for your financial future is an integral part of building the life that you want for yourself and for your family. Today, we're speaking about the benefits of taking the time to review your finances with your family and your loved ones, parents, in-laws, and kids, including adult kids. JimDoyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group Financial Services, has been in this industry for 34 years, and 26 of them with the Investors Group. He has a lot of valuable insights to share with us regarding parents who may not realize how much they could actually be hurting by helping their adult children. This is a great topic and so relevant in today's age and in this boomer society, don't you think, Jim?
Thank you, Joanne. Sometimes parents are more apt to want to help their kids than take a look at their own situation. I also recognize that we see many of the parents want to be generous in terms of their time and their money. In my daily interaction with clients, parents often share concerns about the hardship the younger generation is facing or is likely to face, and they feel compelled to help. A note of caution, though, financial support you're offering to your adult children could be toxic.
Well, I hope you expand on this. And from the story that you shared earlier, Jim, that this approach of not dealing with your finances sounds like it could create potential problems, because that's exactly what the family had done. They'd avoided dealing with all those boxes of documents for years and years and years. So what do you do as an advisor when you see some of these patterns starting to develop in your client relationships?
I think as an advisor, when you see certain habits developing, you have some responsibility to have the conversation, even if it's uncomfortable.
So is diplomacy an issue, do you think? Or is that a reason why parents don't want to have these conversations?
These conversations are challenging, but can and should be handled tactfully. I think a lot of parents are frustrated on a couple of fronts. Often parents don't know where to start these conversations, and they're pushed way outside their comfort zone just having a discussion around the way that their kids manage money.
Well, I think this is where an advisor can actually step in. Wouldn't you agree? Maybe take some of the heat off?
Joanne, to tell the truth, I don't believe many advisors are comfortable with this sort of client conversation in the first place. Personally, I have some mediation and facilitation training under my belt and extensive real-life experience dealing with the tough stuff.
So I'm hearing that you're saying you're okay with this. I know for certain this is where your experience really matters.
You know, if your focus is predominantly on product or sales oriented, I get that family dynamics may not be part of your strong suit. But if you're a family advisor, you focus on the financial picture as a whole. You need to help address the conversation, or help by bringing in the right person who can.
So I know I've asked you this before, but how do you actually facilitate these conversations?
Well, I'll either schedule a meeting to facilitate the conversation myself, or I'll give the parents talking points. It really depends on how the family interacts with one another, and it depends on how the parents want me to be involved.
Can you actually give us an example?
For some families I work with, they send their kids to me before they head off to university or college, and we look at the budgeting, the cash management, and how to use debt appropriately. A lot of families are happy to delegate this conversation, and I'm happy to help because it gives me an opportunity to deepen my relationship with the family. There's real value to be had in helping the next generation. In fact, I would say that financial education is essential when it comes to maintaining wealth. If kids have poor money management skills, that money that you've worked so hard will be spent, and it's going to be spent fast.
Well, it sounds to me like the parents are sloughing their job off on you. I think some of the financial education for the kids should have come from them at some point in time. But when it comes to financial literacy, I know that you're a bit of an expert here. You host numerous workshops around the Lower Mainland for that. But I also understand that you're a program instructor with Junior Achievement. Is this right?
Yes, Joanne, for the better part of a decade now. Clients ask me all the time, why isn't this stuff taught in school? My involvement in junior achievement is a way of giving back. It really comes down to teaching kids of all ages good financial habits and reinforcing these messages consistently.
And you also help busy professionals too. As a speaker, I know you've been working with the dental community and most recently speaking at the Pacific Dental Conference at the Convention Center, and I think that was last month.
Well, yeah, that's right. This was my third year being invited back to the conference to speak on raising financially competent children. This year's presentation was entitled Kids and Money, Essential Conversations.
Well, seems to be a theme here, kids and money.
Today's time-starved parents are well-intentioned and want to do as much as they can with the resources that are available. I think anything that helps them raise financial literacy across all age groups is incredibly valuable.
So are we talking like from young children to teens or teens to adulthood?
All ages. We tailor the message to the age group that's appropriate.
Well, a 5-year-old doesn't need to know much about credit, do they?
Probably not, but it's never too early to recognize that kids see everything. You might be teaching them a whole lot more than you know, both the good and maybe some of the not so good.
Well, this is interesting. I think you're highlighting a very important observation about our money management as adults. Like, do we feel like the driver or are we the passenger when it comes to looking after our money and making investment choices? And are we aware of the message that we're sending to our kids? Mom's the driver, dad's the passenger. Both of us are drivers. Neither of us are driving. Who's driving the bus here? I'm already confused.
Well, does driving make you feel liberated, or would you rather someone else drove? I found in life and in work, being in charge of your destiny and embracing and accepting this responsibility makes it far more likely you'll actually achieve your dreams. Let me be very clear, though, that we're not saying that any of these approaches is wrong. Let me make that clear. Whether you're a driver or a passenger, it's all good. What we're suggesting is that it's important to be aware of your blind spots, and this is where an experienced advisor can come in and helm the process to make sure that the outcome is a little bit more successful for you and your family.
That's a good analogy. Now, you shared a story with us earlier in the show about the couple that was struggling with the responsibility of all those share certificates, like wills and insurance papers and a ton of documents. It was quite apparent in that situation that there was no leader, there was no driver. Nobody was driving that bus until you took the wheel.
Well, you make an excellent point, Joanne, and this is why we want to make sure that you're working with an advisor who acknowledges and addresses the whole family when it comes to needs, wants, expectation, and appreciation. When we talk about families and money, it can be a very emotional subject, open to family conflict and unfulfilled wishes. One of the things my wealthiest clients often share is their desire to leave a legacy to their children. Unfortunately, for many families, they're unaware of this area of planning, that it's more involved than originally anticipated. All the best planning in the world gets lost if the heirs are not part of the planning initiatives.
I have no choice but to agree with that. Now, we do hear all the time that parents want to help out. They want their kids to enjoy the things that they didn't have when they were growing up, and they just can't bear seeing the kids struggle.
In many cases, I've seen of parents supporting adult children. The child isn't allowed to fail because the parent either doesn't want their child to experience discomfort, however temporary discomfort might be, or now this is the part that might sound a little bit harsh, the parent doesn't want to admit that they have failed their child to understand the value of a dollar.
So this is so important here. It goes back to, there was a quote I received from a teacher at one point, a primary teacher, and she said to parents that they need to think about, are they preparing the road for the child or are they preparing the child for the road? I think it's a very hard truth.
Yeah, I have to agree, But is it the best to try and be as objective as possible? When your child lacks the skills to limit their expenses based on their income, how did this happen? The child has poor money management skills and needs to be bailed out regularly? Why?
Understandably, as a parent, guilt sets in when you see or hear about your kid's struggle and you want to help, and there is an easy solution.
Well, and then the checks are written. Nothing is solved. It's a cycle.
It is a cycle. It's a vicious one, too. So what does the way out of this conundrum look like? How do you break that cycle of, I can just fix this kid by writing a check?
Fair warning, the resolution could be messier than you might like it to be because we're about to disrupt a routine. A good place to start is you can't explain to your child why ongoing financial support is a problem, then that's where you want to begin, by better understanding the impact of your entangled financial relationship. Remember this, if your retirement plan is unfunded, you could be hurting your own retirement, so that of your adult child can avoid understanding how money works. A retirement plan includes a budget because we have to have a good handle on cash flow. If your kids are on the payroll, this is important to recognize. It's crucial to your success to understand how you use your resources to make sure the money doesn't run out.
So speaking of avoidance, Jim, I've spent enough time with you to know that the budget part of retirement planning is one of the realities that many retirees and pre-retirees do not have a good handle on.
I found many boomer clients I work with who are headed into retirement think they'll spend less in retirement, yet almost half of retirees I work with say their expenses have increased since beginning their retirement, and kids are being one of those expenses. I can't tell you the number of 80-year-old something clients that I'm working with who are still helping their kids and the grandkids to make ends meet.
I'm not surprised by that either. It's actually quite sad, in my opinion, that we actually would have hoped that skills on budgeting or resourcefulness and potentially restraint or even the value of a dollar would have been developed by this point.
As strange as it sounds, sometimes to really help out, you might have to remove yourself from the situation. If you're still supporting your adult child, your absence could lead to their success. Think about when you were teaching your kids to ride a bike without training wheels. Who was more scared?
Oh, great analogy.
Okay. The idea of letting go and seeing your kid flying off into a hedge was terrifying.
Or hitting the pavement.
Well, exactly. And most parents want to help their kids avoid anything that could involve pain. However, if you've never let go of their bicycle, your child would have never learned how to ride a bike, one of life's greatest triumphs.
Oh, I love that story, Jim. I'm going to retell that one. Definitely, you're painting a great big picture here, and it's a lot of information to absorb. So do you have any additional tips to share as we sort of wrap up this conversation about kids and money?
Well, I think it's really appropriate to look at how helping out your kids really might affect your own financial situation. I think parents help and then they say, I'll look at this later. And I really want to encourage a second perspective on that sort of stuff. One of the key elements, I really can suggest, plan more and worry less.
You make it sound so easy.
When you have a plan, you're going to feel more confident when it comes to shouldering your financial rights, roles, and responsibilities. Families should discuss their plans, their big goals, their estate planning wishes. And remember, it's never too early to consider having a family legacy conversation.
Well, I definitely agree that it is time to talk with your grown kids and your family about your wishes if you haven't done so already.
I also want to remind everyone that it's important to have these cross-generational conversations on a consistent basis. Sharing is caring. Discussions around, here's what we did, here's what we wish we had done, can be incredibly illuminating. Parents have a lot of influence over adult kids, and they want them to succeed. Teaching your kids how to talk about money can be a lifetime goal.
And ask people truthfully, what's more important than their children?
Oh, exactly. If your primary concerns are related to wealth transfer, tax reduction, succession planning, or ensuring children and grandchildren are provided for, this is where you want to get a bit of help.
So what's coming through loud and clear right now is the bottom line that it's just never too late to set yourself on that right path financially. When choosing an advisor, make sure you are getting what you need.
You know, one of the messages that I want to bring up here is a lot of folks heading into retirement look at a big amount of money and they treat it like a big piggy bank. And sometimes that spending needs to be held down just a little bit, okay? Because there is an awful lot of living that's going to come into the future. Let me give you something to think about. Giving goals a structure and tying specific plans to those goals makes it much easier to get through periods of market volatility. It's a crucial part of an advisor's job to be reviewing them regularly. If you're not where you want to be financially, are you working towards clearly defined goals? If not, again, it could be a good time to consider working with a financial planner.
Can you do a quick edit there with his working? You're listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, and today our conversation has been with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group. If you have any concerns or questions about ways that you can make your savings last, well, I suggest you call Jim. Here's his number. You can reach Jim at 604-682-5431. Or better yet, there is a great opportunity to meet Jim Doyle and his team in person. Van Dusen Gardens is the place to be, Tuesday, April 26th from 6:30 until 8 p.m. Please mark it on your calendar. Jim's going to be hosting a workshop where you can actually find out whether your retirement standard of living is at risk or not. He's going to be addressing some very tough planning issues like generating income in a low return environment, or why TFSAs are not just a savings account. He's got more information for you about health and wealth and income splitting and dealing with money and your kids. So, Jim, that's all coming up April 26th at Van Dusen Gardens. You're listening to Boomer Life. I'm Joanne Sutton on CL 650. Don't go away. There's more to come.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.